Hello, 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 internet world. It is a lovely evening. Um, Thank you so much for those of you who've already reached out to connect with us. I just want to get us started and say, hey, I am so glad to come before you. I'm Shay Jacobs. I'm the founder and executive of Adam's Purpose. And I am here to share some very exciting news of just the progression of our organization, where we are, definitely where we've been, and where we are going. So, to those of you who may not know, our organization, Adam's Purpose, seeks to provide help, hope, and healing for bereaved moms and their families. And what I mean by bereaved moms, I mean about women who have lost children to pregnancy related complications like pregnancy loss, miscarriage, stillbirth, early infant death, and as well as we support moms who have unfortunately lost children to suicide, murder, tragic accident, and sickness and illness. Y'all have to forgive me a little bit because I just have not, I'm not a social media guru and have not been on social media in such a long time. And one of the reasons why is that we have just been busy working behind the scenes. And I am so proud of the work that we're doing. And I'm looking forward to introducing a few members of our team, as well as highlighting some of the moms who have benefited from our program. So, tonight we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about tips to help you grieve through the holidays. And we're going to talk about some of our programs that we are currently doing, an expansion of services that we're offering so that you can be aware as a community and help us to share out our resources. And then three, we are in our end of year giving push, looking to help support and bring capacity to the work that we're doing. And hoping that those of you who will watch this will be inspired and be compelled to give in one way or another. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring one of our team members to the front of the stage here, and we're going to just talk about tips to get us through the holidays, grieving, grieving for those of us who are grieving through the holidays. So, okay. All right. I'm going to bring Brandy Williams to the stage, and we're just going to share with you all tips to get us through the holidays for those of us who are grieving. Now, I mentioned for the moms who are grieving loss of a children, but these tips are applicable to any and everyone if you are grieving the loss of a dear loved one.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you
Hey,
doing?
hey, Brandy. I'm so glad that you came on. It looks like we might be having a little bit of Instagram connection problems, but we're gonna keep it moving.
Yeah, I did go ahead and try to resend you the link. I don't know if you're able to switch it out or not.
I could
Um,
definitely try. Let me try to do that while
because it was
um
frozen.
no problem. I can definitely try to do that while you introduce yourself and give a little bit about your testimony and the work you do here with Adam's Purpose.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy. I am the project coordinator for Adam's Purpose, and I came on board actually through a grief process myself. Um, Not only have I experienced the loss of a child in 2011, I recently lost my husband in 2020. And immediately after, I met Shay, and um, they just provided such a warm, comforting, safe space. I had never, honestly, received any type of outside healing or help with the loss of my son. And pretty much we did our best to do it on our own. And I think I thought I was going to be all right doing it on my own again. I think sometimes when you build that resiliency and that buoyancy to just bounce back, you just kind of go into autopilot and you want to do that every time. But God had other plans, and he put this lovely family in my way, and was a safe place for myself and my two grieving sons to grieve gracefully. And that's exactly what it was. And to also have a place to share my testimony and some of the things that have been working for me, because I did have a few things that I was already currently doing, which really was just fully seeking God and seeking my purpose and seeking the purpose that was in my pain, because I knew that what I was experiencing was far greater than what I was going to be experiencing in that moment. And it was going to be it wasn't just impacting me and my kids, but it was going to impact the world around us. And so I'm just super grateful to come on board this year as project coordinator, because one thing we are just so adamant about is sharing lived experience and being that lived experience for others. So yeah, so I will just say that Adam's Purpose has really been a safe house for grieving mothers like myself and grieving families, because when we have loss, it's not just one person that's affected. It's not only the mother, but it's the entire community around us. And so I'm really just so proud to be a part of an amazing organization, and an organization that has helped me so much personally.
Brandy, thank you for several things. One, that the first moment that I met you, even though it was an unfortunate circumstance and you had just recently lost Jordan, your level of faith to trust God to help you and your sons get through this really impressed me in so many ways. And your I know we use this word a lot, and sometimes I don't always like using this word, but it still means what it means. And your level of resilience to push through such a dark time and say, we're going to be all right. And it was a pleasure, in my opinion, to have connected with you in that early stage, and then to see where this has developed into has been a pure, I would say, God surprise. Um, so, because the hope was always to be culturally relevant, and part of that cultural relevance is lived experience. It is such a key component for those who have lived experience to help support, empower, pour into, love on other moms, because there's just such an understanding that's there that words cannot even express. And so I am so very glad that you have joined the team in the capacity in which you have. And that speaks to one of our highlights. I know we're going to get into talking about like how to get through grief through the holidays, because it's life shattering, it's life changing. We need skills, we need tools to be able to cope through those hard times, because they are real, they're going to happen. And we talk about grieving gracefully, but I would like to highlight one of Adam's Purpose's, I would say, highlights is that we have gone from just me volunteering as the executive director and doing a lot of this work solo, to being able to, one, expand our board of directors, and two, to be able to hire and advance our reach with having you come on board to support our bereaved moms. So I just want to tell you, thank you for that. And yeah, it's been such a key component. So we've had a lot of capacity building in the last year. Brandy, let's talk about some of the programs we got going on before we get into grieving into the holidays. Let's share like this new framework we've been working on and what are we doing and what you do within the agency, and kind of share about our support groups.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are currently, we have our 2 7-week cohorts that we kicked off this year that I think you and I both are just so excited about, because it is a tangible result that we are seeing with these women who are coming in so broken.
Yeah.
So disheartened from losing their child, whether it is from pregnancy, infant, or sudden death, murder, however they experience their loss, they come together and unite in a sisterhood that is just so special, because they have found their village. They have found the people that really resonate with them and understand them. And it has just been such a safe haven for these women, because for a lot of them, this is the first time they're able to be real and authentic and transparent. And sometimes that's all we need. I think you and I were just talking about this yesterday, and just having that safe space to just be you and be exactly like who you are in that moment, in that season, and feeling that. And so this 7-week cohort has just been phenomenal. And what we do is we walk these women through what grief looks like, because there's been so many stigmas as to what grief looks like, how it's supposed to be, how long it takes. And most of us don't have a group of people around us who have either experienced this exact type of loss, or even just a close loss, such as losing a child. And so they just don't know what they don't know. And so they don't understand what we need to hear, or what we may need or not hear during those times. And so it also gives our mothers a chance to have grace on their village as well, and teach them how to handle them in this season. And so we have our Mothers Mourn, and we have our Angel Moms, 2 groups that are amazing. So if this is anything that any of you women or if you have friends that may have gone through a child loss of any sort, this is something that you can refer them to our website. We do have programs already being put underway for the next year in 2024. So you can go ahead and start inquiring about those and put in an interest for them, so that we can get you signed up, because space is limited. We typically only have space for 12 women. So definitely jump on that if that's something that you want to do. And then, of course, we have our monthly meetups, which is the way we call them AP Connections. And this is an awesome time for the women who are interested in learning more about Adam's Purpose and what we're doing, or to have our ladies who have gone through the cohorts that still want that sisterhood and that connection, and to just kind of bridge that gap of being in grief and then getting back out into the real world. And with that, we are offering different types of creative expression to express your grief, but as also dig deep and maybe explore some things that you've never explored before or experienced before, and creating that, again, safe but fun place to transition during your grief. I like to say. So those are just 2 of the things that we've already been doing, and we're going to continue and have even more of in 2024. Shay, if you want to talk about some of our bigger events that we have, some of our traditions, like Born.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, one of the key events that came out of our development of Adam's Purpose was our signature event, A Mother's Mourn. And A Mother's Mourn is a healing and remembrance event whereby moms are honored, their children and their legacy that the children and the deceased children and the legacy are also remembered in such a very warm, loving way. So it's like a safe space. Any mom and support person, community person, spouse, siblings come to really honor and represent that family member. For the moms, it's their child, but for another person, it could have been a cousin, a sibling, um, a grandchild, so a niece or a nephew. So though when we focus on embracing those mothers during that time, one reason why, Brandy, is like when we talk about, and we will get to this, talking about grieving through the holidays, those memorial days and anniversary days, and not to say that any day can be a rough day, but often we've been finding that some of those special days and memories are deepened triggers or just a little bit more difficult to approach. And Mother's Day is one of those times your heart just kind of aches.
Mm-hmm.
So we have provided that safe space for the women in our community to be able to come together, to be inspired by one another. And what I mean by that is that the words of encouragement that are shared, they're not from a mom who doesn't know. They're from a mom who has lived experience and speak to the journey. We do a lot of artistic expression, dance, theater. Last year, I should say this year, because it hasn't passed yet, we had our Hope and Healing Room with Quicken Ministries. And it is just a beautiful time. It's just one of those things like if you just don't know, you don't know until you go, you just have to go. So we want to share that with the community so that you can share it with those you know that may be a mom of a child who is deceased. So whether that is a pregnancy loss or whether that's from other losses, like we've talked about, accidental death, illness, tragic accident. I think I mentioned that, but
Mm-hmm.
murder, suicide. Our focus is not so much on how you lost your child, it's
Mm-hmm.
more about that you are a mom who's living forward without your child. So I see a couple of people in our chat that we know and love. I see Minister Diane Harrell. I see Lizzie Guyberson, who's been part of our support group. So we want to shout out to you guys. Thank you for joining. And a
Yes.
couple other people, Sina Bina. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining in. And we may have an opportunity to bring you on to allow you to share a little bit more about how Adam's Purpose has been supportive of you.
Mm-hmm.
See, Callie. So here we are. So that's Adam's, that's a mother's mourn. And then oh, Brandy, we can't forget to tell them about the upcoming. So we're fundraising, we have a fundraising event because
Oh,
one,
yes. Yes.
this work
Oh.
is rich. It's heavy. It's what we call hard work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's hard for people to like, how do you do what you do? How do I not do what I do?
That part.
Once you encounter this life where you've been impacted by loss um, in this capacity, it forever changes you, it forever shifts you. We don't compare because we give every woman the grace to grieve. We give every person an opportunity to grieve. It's not necessarily saying this is the way you're supposed to grieve, but that really just give yourself permission to grieve. And here is a roadmap of tools and breathing techniques and coping skills and educational components and real life love and sisterhood and faith to support you. So that's so Brandy, do you want to share a little bit about the upcoming fundraiser? Because I'm super excited about it. I know we're having it March 16th and it's all the way live.
All the way live. Oh my gosh, yes. So we want everyone to first and foremost get your gowns ready, get your suits ready, because it's definitely going to be just a night to remember. We are going to be surrounded by local art. We are going to be surrounded by local music, live music. We are going to have some amazing things to fundraise and raffle off. We really want to highlight some of our participants as well with this. So if you are a participant, if you've been one in the past, or if you're going to be one in the upcoming year, be prepared, because we may ask you to share of yourself, of your journey, of your creative work that has been birthed through your journey. So we really want this to be a very special night, a night that you not only are giving to an amazing cause and organization such as Adam's Purpose, but it is really for the community. It is really to broaden the awareness so that we can help that many more mothers in the community heal properly. And we don't want to just stop at the mothers either, because like we said before, this is all about how the loss of a child affects the entire family. And so this fundraiser will be helping push more initiatives to help the fathers that are grieving, help the children that are grieving. And so I don't want to say too much about it, but it is going to be a beautiful night. And this is a night that you can bring your significant other or your girlfriend or mother, father, whomever. But I think we all love a good night where we can eat some fancy food that's delicious, get dressed, look at some beautiful art, and give to a wonderful cause all in one night. So be on the lookout for that, March 16th. So go ahead and mark your calendars.
Yes, because it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. It's going to be so good. And we are looking so forward to having a good time. One of the things I love about some of the work that we do is we do integrate the arts, because the arts within themselves can be healing, especially in our community. Mm-hmm. So I think we're trying to see if we can pull one of our participants on. I'm wondering if our back office can look at the comments here and see. Yeah. Miss Diane, we're going to see if in a few minutes we can get her the link to join us, back office, Shawnee, and see if we can go ahead and hear her testimony from attending our programs. Good evening.
Perfect. And if you guys have any questions as well, please feel free to add them to the chat. At the end, we are going to try to do a quick Q&A, or if you missed anything that you may need us to go back over. So please add those questions to the chat so that we don't overlook those. And then in a little bit, we are going to hear from Shawnee as well, which is one of our board members. And she's going to give her story of how she got to be a part of Adam's Purpose and what Adam's Purpose means for her in her life. So, and shout out to the people on IG. We've got a few people over there. And so we just want to say hello to you guys as well. Thank you for joining. And again, if you know anyone that may need to hear more about Adam's Purpose and what we have going on, or maybe they're grieving this season, go ahead and shoot out this feed to them, share it on Facebook or Instagram, please. In just a little bit, we're going to give a few tips for grieving through the holidays. And it could be, honestly, grieving any loss. So not just the loss of a child. We know that grief is a very real thing, and it can hit us all in different ways. And so we just want to make sure that through all the hustle and bustle of the holidays, that you don't forget about yourself, and that you take some time to have some self-care and to grieve gracefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, while we're working on that, let's connect on one. We talked about our 7-week cohort support group. So if you know of a grieving mom, we have a 7-week support group that is curated just specifically for bereaved moms in the Black and Brown community. It is a safe space where women who have lived experience come together, and it is led by a therapist of color and supported by our peer advocates to provide 7 weeks of dedicated space for moms to, one, be authentic about where they are in their journey, but also to receive that much needed support in the way of information, connection, and just a safe space to be. So we're really proud of the outcomes that have come out of that, and definitely looking to hopefully have our community be more aware about what we offer and to be able to share that in addition to our monthly support groups, our monthly AP connections that we do. So let's see, where are we at? Oh, and also we are looking to push for this last end of year giving. So we definitely need your support to go to our website. We need your help financially to be able to continue to do this work that we are doing. So much that is needed. If you could only, well, we pray, obviously, this is not the club that we say that we want any woman to be a part of, but we are so grateful that we do end up meeting each other because it's just been such a safe space. But it's one of the hardest walks I think any mom can walk, is bearing a child or not being able to hold a child. So these are the things that we are honoring in our community. We're talking about grief. We're talking about it because what we don't talk about and what we don't face, we can't really heal from. And we're trying to normalize having these grief conversations. And so here we are. So let's get into these tips. Let's get into some practical things that we can do, Brandy, to get through the holidays. And then I definitely want to bring our beloved Shani on board. Or Shani, you ready to come now, or you want us to get into these tips? Let me put it out there to you. Okay, let's get into the tips, says Shani.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go first and talk about acknowledging your feelings. That it is okay to feel sad, to feel overwhelmed, to feel numb, to feel a roller coaster of emotions, to feel needy. I know for me in this season, I finally was able to admit that I'm needy right now. And even through the years of healing and grief and triumph, all of these things that I've, built up, like I said, in that resilience, I'm able to sit. And that's why I do actually love that word, because I used to say strong all the time. And I had to retract that because I was always telling myself, oh, I'm so strong, I'm so strong. I never wanted to feel weak. I didn't feel like I was allowed to feel weak because I'm strong. But when I say I'm resilient, it's like, you know what? No, I can bounce, I can fall back a little bit, and I can go through the roller coaster of emotions, and I can be feeling low one day, and I can feel that, and I can express that, even if it's not expressed in the prettiest way. And I'm not giving an excuse to mistreat anyone or even mistreat myself, but it's a reality that you may get triggered and you don't even know what's triggering you in that moment. But I'm going to accept it. I'm going to be real about how I'm feeling, because that's the only way I can deal with that. Because if we're not real and acknowledging our feelings, we're numbing it, we're burying it, and then therefore we won't get healing from it. And I think that's so important to even just start the process of grieving in your journey, is acknowledging that, hey, I'm not okay right now, but I'm going to be okay. That's the hope, right? That's the hope of knowing I'm going to get better. I'm not going to stay here, but I also realize that I'm here, and I'm going to be real with it, and I'm going to face it head on. And when I face it head on, that's when I can encapsulate it with love, unconditional love, which is no judgment for feeling how I'm feeling right now, but I'm going to get through this.
That's right.
So step one, acknowledging those feelings.
Acknowledging those feelings. And we say it's okay to not be okay, right? It is okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I try to encourage myself and others that you don't have to be strong. It's perfectly fine to be weak. Because in your weakness, his strength is made perfect.
That's right.
And if we can give ourselves permission to not be okay, we can normalize that this was never intended for me to be okay, just to get over it and get through it. It was meant for me to embrace it and try to navigate through it the best way I know how, and not to have any judgment for myself or anyone else, because it's not a journey that is a desirable walk, and it's never easy. So, yes, acknowledging our feelings, feel what you feel, don't judge yourself, keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is, we talk about, I know this term is used sometimes and it works for some and not for others, is like creating a new normal. Because what was once a normal part, and I shouldn't say what was, who was once a normal part of your everyday life, that doesn't exist anymore for you. I don't know if my video is lagging. Is it? I think it's back. Okay.
It's back.
Okay. So one way that we can grieve healthily through holidays is by providing ourselves to make new memories and make new traditions in honor and celebratory of our loved ones. So not erasing what was, but creating something new to connect the two, remembrance and hope, right? Remembrance and hope. And so, or you can modify old traditions. I've heard moms say stuff like, my son likes sweet potatoes. And so, in honor of him for Thanksgiving, I don't like sweet potatoes, but I made them for him. I'm going to make, these sweet potatoes, and whoever eat them, right? Creating new traditions, lighting a candle, like in honor, like when a daughter or son is not at the table during a normal type of celebration. Yes. So those are the types of things, is or releasing balloons. We do some of that to allow those spaces for our remembrance aspect, creating a memory box, and just doing something that they loved. So,
one thing that we do, and we've done this for years, is on. So my son that passed away, he was born on Christmas Eve. So I know. So it's a tradition for us to have some sort of birthday cake, um, in celebration in honor of him, and then everyone gets to open one gift. So that is, and so, and I know not everyone knows this, but my husband, their father, he actually passed away on the same day. So he passed away on Christmas Eve.
wow.
So now it's like a birthday party in heaven. So we are celebrating that he returned to be with Junior in heaven on his birthday. So they're celebrating in heaven, we're celebrating here. So it's and then it's Christ's birthday too, right? So it's just a full out celebration for us every Christmas Eve. And that's whether we make, it's not even a big, crazy thing. It's just a special moment for us. And the kids are always excited. Like, we getting cupcakes, we getting the cake, we get to open our present for Junior's birthday. So that is definitely something that's near and dear to us, that we do every year. So
I really like that, because what I sense, as you said, is you guys remember and you reflect, and you've taken something that has been hard and you've made a sweet memory and sweet moments and forged a new tradition for you and the boys.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's so healing. It helps you remember in a joyful light. And you don't have to always look at loss as something being taken away per se, because sometimes I think loss can add to your life, in different ways. Maybe not the one we really want, but it can do that. But I do believe, have to be open to accepting that. And I think it's hard because you want what you want and you want it how you want it. But if you can kind of just embrace, maybe there's a hidden gem in this that I wasn't seeing before, it can really just create that shift in your life that you need to help you get through it.
Yeah, and it's definitely depending on what phase we are in our grief journey. When we are able to manifest a different thought life, because in those beginning parts, and depending on who we are and what we've already experienced, just the devastation of it can take quite a bit of time, and we don't put a time on our grief journey to process that. But those are the types of things that, Brandy, we refer to as post-traumatic growth, which is an opportunity for us to have. I have a little journal, and I called it the gifts of grief, because although grief was very difficult for me, as I've processed what I've gained and learned and the person I've become as a result of experiencing losing my child and my mother-in-law and a spiritual niece in such a short time frame, that when I hit a couple of epiphanies, and not that anyone can ever arrive, and not that any two people's journey can ever be the same, grief gifted me my voice. And it's such an interesting concept that I grew through grief. and I had a lot of pain through it too. I mean, two things can be true at the same time,
That's
right?
right.
One
That's
of the
right.
most horrendous experiences of my life has yielded and birthed in me a new person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Beauty from
but
ashes.
I know we can get through, we gonna get through these tips so that
Yeah, we do
we
these
can bring Tani
tips.
on. The next tip, I'll just go through the second two, then you can go through the last two, is to reach out for support when you're grieving, especially whether you're grieving through the holidays, whether it's the loss of a child or another loved one that is near and dear to you, and it's a difficult time. Definitely reach out for support. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to get counseling or therapy. Join a support group and to connect with those who have the capacity and the bandwidth to support you. Sometimes our most closest family members and friends may not always have that capacity to support you in a way that's authentic, not because they don't desire to, it's because they may not know how to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one of the things is talk about your feelings, share the memories. Definitely don't hold it in, but get to a safe space where you can be yourself and you don't have to apologize to anybody and you don't have to make room for how someone else's grief affects your grief. So if you're a mom and your spouse is, grieving and your children are grieving, those are complicated, relationship dynamics that do need to be addressed, but sometimes you just need your space just for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll say this next one and then you go to the next two. Take care of yourself. Self-care is crucial. I'm still learning how to take care of myself through this grief journey. Through life, actually. I mean, self-care is really a component of living through life. We have stressors and demands upon our lives on a daily. It's always a constant juggle with the boundaries and what we're called to do and what would be great to do and what's necessary and how to prioritize. And life can be overwhelming. And then you add the compound aspect of grief. So self-care is crucial. Try to maintain a routine, get rest, eat well. If you're able to breathe, physical exercise and even just breathing practices can help to calm your mind and your body. Brandy, I'll have you walk through those next two, and then we'll get into our volunteer testimony and our participant testimony.
Yeah. So the next one is going to be setting boundaries. This is something that I had to learn because I was always that person that was, you need me, I'm there. And I remember even the first few months into my most recent grief process, I would have friends calling me. And by the end of the conversation, it was like, girl, I'm supposed to be calling and checking on you, and you done gave me a motivational sermon here. And, I did it naturally because in my heart, like, I feel like that's what I was supposed to do. Like, I've experienced this and I've learned and I want to share it. But in the same aspect, I had to learn that I can't always be available, or I can't maybe in a certain season go and do this. Like, I may be the one that's usually doing this for the holidays. Well, this holiday season, I'm not doing anything, and I don't need to feel bad about it. And I think a lot of us put that pressure on us to remain normal and not change, too much because of this grief, that you don't set those boundaries, but do what feels right in your heart. That's the main thing. We're not saying that you have to stop doing everything, because honestly, for some people, keeping that normalcy may be part of what's healing you. And so if you feel comfortable doing that, do that. But do never feel guilty for stepping back and saying, I gotta say no this time. I need a few months to just be to myself, not answering calls, any of that. And I think a lot of times too, the communication, like, people don't know what to say to us when we're grieving. And so sometimes they can make it awkward, and or they want us to reach out to them to tell them what we need. And we don't know what we need. half the time and when we're grieving. And so be okay with not knowing what you need, but also vocally, saying that if someone reaches out to you and say, hey, how can I help? Tell them what you need help with. I can't clean up right now. Can you come over and help me clean up? Can you cook a couple meals or bring a couple meals over? Or can you help me take the kids to practice? And so some of those boundaries are just saying, I need help. I just can't do it right now, but it still needs to get done. And so the boundary is I just can't do it, but it still needs to get done. So if you're offering help, I'm taking that help. And so also not being afraid to accept the help when people are offering that help to you. And then lastly, seek professional help if and when needed. I know that many of us, especially my Black and brown beautiful sisters, have always had to be strong and maybe not say so much and maybe figure it all out on our own. But that's what not only your village is for, but that's what professionals are for. It's so funny. I remember hearing a sermon one day, and they were saying that when Jesus was speaking to the woman at the well, it was a therapy session. And I was like, oh my gosh, and we have so frowned upon therapy, whether it's group therapy, whether it's one-on-one therapy. It has been taboo, and you must be crazy if you go into a therapist. And that is so not the case right now. And I'm so glad that it's becoming normal in our everyday self-care regimen to find someone that you can talk to. And yes, they're paid to talk to and to listen to you. And I think sometimes that's kind of created a wall, right? Like, well, they're paid to listen to me, so of course they're going to listen to me. But why not? Because sometimes we put that burden on people that are close to us, and they're not, like you said earlier, they're not equipped to handle those conversations. Maybe they don't know how to listen to that and not respond and not give an answer because they feel like they want to help you so bad because they see your brokenness and you're so close to them and you don't need that from them, or they just are not available. They don't maybe have 2 or 3 hours a week or, a month to sit there and just kind of listen to what you're going through. That's what the professionals are for. And so take advantage of that. And I'm going to segue this into one thing we did mention is that we are rolling out our one-on-one therapy sessions.
Yes.
So we have our group sessions for our women, for up to 12 women, but we are now offering one-on-one therapy sessions for up to 6 free sessions. And so please, if this is something you are interested in, we have a survey that you can complete, and we will get you referred over as soon as possible in the new year. We have some amazing women of color who are going to be providing services for us to help you continue on your grief journey. So we are so excited to be rolling that out as well.
Absolutely. Thank you I knew that was something that we needed to mention because that is such an amazing resource to be able to offer individual therapy to our women on top of group, peer group sessions, and then our monthly connections meetup. So we are going to move into having our volunteer, Shawnee, come to the table to talk about her experience. And then we have a participant who will be sharing as well. So we're going to bring Shawnee to the table and welcome her in this space.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Let me scoot over a little bit. Can you see me?
I'm gonna make this.
Okay, there we go.
Wait, let me change it. Let's see how we can make this. There we go.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you for having me, Shay and Brandy. I am a volunteer. I am a board member. And pretty much, I mean, how I was even introduced to Shay is because I have experienced loss. Pretty much everyone I know has experienced loss in some way or another, whether it was a son, a father, a mother, and or a child. Because I'm a doula, I'm a birth worker. I work in the birthing space, and I was kind of catapulted into this industry due to my own loss that I've experienced over and over again. And just in this last couple of months, I experienced another loss, another traumatic loss, another pregnancy loss at 3.5 months. But prior to that, I became a volunteer, and it was just put on my heart that I needed to connect with Adam's Purpose and with Shay in a way that I hadn't already, because I already was like kind of wanting to chase Shay. Like, I think I need to be in this space. This is where, the Lord has put on me to be. And I wasn't quite sure exactly why. And I just happened to see that there was a position where I was needed. And I thought that I was going to be pouring into Adam's Purpose everything that I had, because that is who I am. I pour into others. I position myself to constantly give and give, because that is what really fills me. And within, I think, a month, I was experiencing a loss like I'd never experienced before. And I say that having lost I've gone through pregnancy loss, infant loss, 3 different times prior to this. And this particular time, this is the 4th time, it was so different. It hit me like a truck. And it wasn't because I had prepared. It was because I was already grieving. I was grieving the loss of a cousin, several friends, several cousins. I was already grieving. And my grandfather died 1 week prior to me finding out that I was losing a child at 3.5 months, a pregnancy at 3.5 months. And it was on the day that I was supposed to show up to an Adam's Purpose meeting. And I was like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know if I can pour into another person. I don't know if I can show up for my family. I don't know what to do next, because I was already grieving, and I had no idea. It was like an episode of I didn't know I was pregnant. I had been just going through this process for a month. So I was 3.5 months pregnant and had been going through this process of miscarrying for a month. And now I'm at this point where things are getting unsafe for my body. And this is what I'm seeing a lot. However, I had been positioned. The Most High positioned me exactly where I needed to be, which was to be surrounded by folks that were going to show up for me and fill in all the cracks in ways that I couldn't do for me, that my mother, I have two. I've been blessed with my mother that gave birth to me, and Callie, my mother, who did not give birth to me, but has shown up for me like a mother, like any other mother would. I had those 2 people showing up for me, but I still had a little something that was like, I was walking around my house one day and I just felt broken. Broken. And I got the doorbell rang, and I opened the door, and it was a care package from Adam's Purpose. That is what Adam's Purpose has done for me. It wasn't that I got a blanket and slippers and candy and all the things I needed in the moment to snuggle myself up with. It was that the Lord placed it on this group at that perfect time. It's that timing, that support. It showed up for me right when I needed it.
Mhm.
You can't make that up. You can't. And it pushed me into the next day.
Mhm.
And that is what this group has done for me, because I haven't gone to a support group. I haven't, because I'm in a different state.
Mhm.
However, this support here that I'm receiving,
Mhm.
it's there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. And I may feel like I'm pouring into Adam's purpose, but Adam's purpose has poured into me healing, and I have learned truly what it means to grieve gracefully. That is going to be forever at the tip of my tongue. Grieve
Yeah.
gracefully.
What does that mean to you, that term, Brandy and Shawnee, to grieve gracefully? Because that's a term that was a signature term that the Lord gave me on how to walk through my grief journey. But I'm just wondering what it might mean to you.
Brandy, you want to?
I'm really learning the true meaning of grace during my healing process. Learning what grace is, and really what I have personally learned what grace is. It truly is unconditional love. And when I learn to have more grace on myself, I'm able to have more grace on those around me. And so when I grieve gracefully, that's literally saying I can grieve without judgment on myself, of what I'm experiencing, my highs, my lows, my emotional woes. And I'm able to also, I don't know, it's like when you say grieve gracefully, it's like you think of like, just, I don't know, almost like a heavenly grieving process, to where you're going to feel that pain. You're going to go through, the traumatic ins and outs, but there's just like this beautiful, loving blanket that encompasses it all. And so it's like, as you walk it out, it's like, I know I'm going to be all right. I'm grieving gracefully.
Yes.
How about you, Shawnee?
For me, it's I think Brandy put it so perfectly. It's really providing that space for you to do whatever is needed at the time, and having others who are coming in to help with providing that space, and you giving yourself that grace, and others giving you that grace to just be where you're at.
Yeah. I love what both of you guys said, because it resonates, and I like to really encourage people to make it their own, because a term is just a term until it really makes sense to you. For me, at the time when that term was dropped into my heart, it was giving myself permission to grieve, to do it with grace, meaning leaning all of who I was into the Lord, because I would need His grace to go through it, without the judgments, like you both have said. So that judgment, without judgment, with total permission to be completely vulnerable. That's grace. I give myself to be vulnerable. But then I think about the grace is not injury to someone else. My grief journey shouldn't bring someone else injury.
Ooh, that's so good.
And it really challenged me, because when I was in my darkest time, I was tempted to just be as raw could be. And I was tempted to take permissions for the flesh, because pain can do that. Pain can make you feel like you have permission, but we know the word says, make no provisions for the flesh. So when that term dropped into my heart from the Lord, He basically was telling me, you do not have permission to be toxic just because you're in pain.
That's right.
And grieving gracefully enabled me to show and teach other people who were trying to support me grace when they didn't know what to do or how to do it or how to handle it. It was uncomfortable for them. I comforted and gently held a few people because they didn't know what to say.
Mhm.
We're not equipped in the community and in the body on how to support people with their grief journey. And so for me, grieving gracefully is no one else should get injured by my grief, not even me. That there, I have to find a way to grieve in his presence. I have to find a way to grieve without it hurting somebody else because I'm in the thick of it. So,
Wow.
I want to piggy off of that because I couldn't come up with the words when I was trying to, like, I was imagining, you know, when they talk about like someone dancing gracefully, right?
yes.
They're not bumping into other people.
Come on. That's right.
They're
That's
not
right. That's
falling
right.
over. It's this just beautiful flow and dance, and that's what I was envisioning. And that's the vision is what you just said. Is you're doing it gracefully, where you're in your own flow and your own world, but you're not hurting anyone around you. You're not damaging anyone around you. You're in this beautiful flow.
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was
Yeah, and pain is relevant to how we press into it because if we were to interview, several key people, let's just say in Black history, we have a lot of people who were imprisoned and endured pain. So we can just take a couple top three: Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, and I know that that might seem like it might not relate to grief, but they were being birthed out in such a grievous time in history for civil rights that they, in essence, when we talk about like what it means to be a forerunner in something that's not common, and that being imprisoned and still being free, as Martin Luther King would say, that imprisonment is really about the mind. And so can a concept of grief can be really imprisoning when it causes injury to how you want to love and show up with other people in the world. I don't even know why I went there. Because I think when we're hurting, we give ourselves permission to be reckless instead of surrendered.
There's a quote that I love by Buddha, and it's life has pain, but you choose whether you suffer. And it's so relevant to grief because you can go through it gracefully, even if it takes a while, or you can choose to suffer in it and never come out of it. And unfortunately, I have seen both sides of that. And it breaks my heart because I know God has so much on the other side for all of us when we just choose to go through it. And it hurts going through it. It's real going through it. It might hurt even more going through it than staying in it. But we believe the lie that it's more safer to just sit in it and suffer in it. But when you go through it, oh my God, the beauty that's on the other side of it, even if it's learning to just live with that pain.
That whole point right there. And these are things, can be some concepts that are hard to chew on. And we're definitely not saying there's one way to walk through a grief journey or a right or wrong path for an individual. but we are promoting there's got to be a healthy way.
Right. Right.
You're not causing harm and injury to yourself and others, because pain can make you infectious and inflictious.
It can change you.
It can change you. And I'm saying that I didn't know at the time that it would change me for the better.
That
And
part.
it was ugly. I mean, it was ugly. This changed it. I'm on another aspect of it is it no, it was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It was so ugly. But so I think we could go on and on about this grieve gracefully and how that means to us. And so that's just a concept that we encourage through our program, to give yourself permission to grieve, whatever that looks like, and to embrace your own barriers
Mm-hmm.
to grieving.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Minister Diane here with us. We're going to pull her in and just hear her share maybe a minute or two testimony on her experience with A Mother's Mourn.
Can you hear me, Pastor Shay?
We can hear you.
Hi, good evening to everyone.
Good evening to you.
Good evening. Giving honor to God. Thank you for having me. I just happened to go through Facebook and I saw that you were coming on. I wanted just to be a part of it. But I'm glad that God directed me to hook up to the Facebook tonight. Pastor Shay and I met through Facebook, not because of she and I, but because of God. God connected us through Facebook, and turned around, we discovered we lived like up the street from each other, and we both had lost a child, and she was having a Mother's Mourn a dinner banquet for mothers and fathers, and I was a part of that. And what I enjoyed most of about it was, first of all, meeting Pastor Shay, and I had someone that I can talk to about my hurt and my pain. Sometimes you might have a large family, but there's no one there to talk to. No one understands. They turn it around and make it your fault. It's what she wants. It's what she needs to have. No, it's about what's needed for that person's hurt. But it makes a difference when you have someone there to listen, to understand. And that's what Adam's Purpose has done for me. To get a chance to meet and encourage other mothers and fathers who's walking the same journey as we are walking or have walked, understanding the pain and the hurt and the everyday facing that situation, and thanking God for holding and carrying us and getting us through each and every moment of our life. And it was a blessing and a pleasure for me to be a part of Adam's Purpose. It wasn't anything that I done. It was all because of God. God hooked this whole thing up for divine purpose. In saying that as well, during the time I lost my son, people are there the first 2-3 years, 4 or 5 years, they start to go away, even people close to you. I'm talking family members. You still need love and support. Well, I was in counseling for 12 years at my job at Kaiser Permanente. I was in counseling, and I really enjoyed counseling because I had opportunity to go there, and my counselor let me talk. He let me cry. He didn't rush me. He listened to me, and he gave me suggestions and a plan. And he didn't get discouraged with me, or he made me feel comfortable in my grief. He didn't make me feel like it was my fault. And I'm saying that to say, those that's very close to you sometimes can turn things around on you to where God sees everything that we do. And God wants the best for all of us. So out of rejection, neglect, and isolation, God birthed a ministry for me. It's his ministry, but he gave it to me to oversee. It's called Minister Diane Harrell support group, Coping with the Death of a Child. It's on Facebook. I did not ask for that. God saw the need. And people tell me how much it encourages them because, again, they have the opportunity to talk to someone who's experienced it, someone who won't turn it around and make it seem like it's their fault or push them to the side or not have compassion or empathy for them. God has birthed that ministry, and I'm thankful for it because as I encourage, love, support, and try to comfort other mothers and fathers, it's giving me what I didn't get. So
Mhm.
what I didn't get, I can give to them, and then
Mhm.
and I turn around, and I get it back. I receive the love from the other mothers and fathers, and it's all God's work. It's not mine; it's God's work, and I know it. And
So,
I'm just
Minister
thankful
Diane,
that God see the need, and He knows the hurt, and He knows the pain that we all experience. And
mhm,
I promise you, He does something about it. He just
yeah,
don't sit and do nothing. God does something about it. Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and the
mhm,
called according to his purpose. And
mhm,
I think about that scripture, and I think about what God turned around and put these mothers and fathers in this support group. It's a 350 some mothers and fathers in this group. And God's going to elevate it to another height, but
Minister
it's all
Diane,
in his timing.
Minister
But I
Diane,
just
can
thank
you hear
God.
me? Minister Diane, can you hear me?
Yes,
Can I say something?
yes.
I want to tell you thank you in that you allowed your loss with Bruce to fuel you to help support others to get the support in a way that you didn't have it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly why what we do here with Adam's Purpose. I wanted to thank you for how you have supported our organization and wanted to appreciate you for always being so kind and so honorable in connecting with us.
Yes.
I appreciate the ways that you have um, made yourself available to volunteer and to show up in any capacity. And just want to honor you in your loss, especially, if I can highlight this, some of our losses, it takes a turn and it's difficult because there's no justice. And I know in Bruce's case, there was no justice yet served, as far as I last remember you sharing with me. And that has made it also a difficult space for you to grieve, knowing that someone is still out there that hasn't taken accountability for what has happened to you and your son. And I wanted to just continue to extend that warm condolence that Adam's Purpose is here for you. And we do have programs for you as well, and the group of people that you serve. And we would love to help support with that individual counseling and the support group counseling and those monthly connections. One things that we did not mention before is that at our A Mother's Mourn conference, we bring multiple support groups and other organizations together to honor
Mm-hmm.
those in the community who are doing this work. We make
Yes.
room, we don't compete, we make room, and we are bringing everyone together that operates in any space of support and capacity to support those who are grieving. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on tonight. We have a few more things that we're going to do to wrap up our session, Miss Diane. And I'm
Okay.
just so grateful that you could be on for a few minutes to share with us parts of your journey.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I know that we just need to make sure. I think we've kind of covered everything as far as our highlights for 2024.
Mhm.
Again, just to recap, everyone, we do now offer individual therapy. We are offering up to 6 free sessions for bereaved mothers.
Mhm.
Our 2 7-week cohort sessions, which are group therapy sessions led by a therapist as well, for up to 12 women per class. We have a Mother's Mourn and we have Angel Moms. So we have 2 separate groups. The Angel Moms is for any child loss, pregnancy through age 1. and then a mother's mourn for any child lost after that age 1. And any type of loss whatsoever, and that includes IVF, it includes stillbirth, you name it. You had a baby in your womb, you are a bereaved mother of that child if you did lose that child in any way, shape, or form. And so we want to encourage you to take part in those therapy sessions. Again, we have our AP Connections, which is once a month. And we are going to be adding some additional ones. So you actually might see some months where we have 2 activities for the month, because we really want to get you guys back acclimated into just everyday life, being social, having that connection with other women who understand you. And so please look out for them. They are so much fun. They are so healing. They are so therapeutic. And some of them may be something you've never done in your life before. So it's a good broadening of what you may have already experienced. And then, of course, our major events, look out for those. We have our fundraiser coming up in March 16th. We have our Mother's Mourn, Mother's Day brunch, Mother's Day weekend. I believe it's this year, May 10th.
I think it's May 11th. Maybe.
May 11th. Okay.
Whatever the Saturday is before Mother's Day.
Okay. Yes. And stay tuned, because we might be doing some extra little things with that too. We're working on it.
Yeah.
And then our wellness,
mental health and wellness. Mental health and wellness fair. That's going to be this
fall.
Correct.
And then maybe some things in between as well. So just stay in touch. Sign up on our website, adamspurpose.org, to stay in the loop so you get our emails, because we will send out emails for all of these things. And then we just want to, again, I'm going to give it to you, Shay, to speak on our end of year giving. And even Shani, thank you so much. You helped us so much with our last giving campaign. And thank you to all of your followers as well who donated, and everyone who donated. We are still, still have a goal to reach. So I'm gonna let you talk about those numbers and where we're at, and give you guys an opportunity to donate.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Thanks for giving such a great overview of our programs and our services. Yes, please share this video. I know that it's not always easy to talk about grief. And Brandy, as you were mentioning, like the grief groups and the grief socials. One thing I just want to bust the elephant in the room is I sometimes am in my office working while there's a support group going. And every 5 to 10 minutes, I hear the group of women just straight up belly laugh. So although this is very somber and very solace and can be very sad, joy and grief coexist.
Mm-hmm.
And when our women and participants come together, they are doing life together. And it has brought me so much joy to hear like the commotion of something that's hilarious. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about or doing? So I know that this can be a very seemingly doom and gloom type of conversation, but what we're hoping to do is to increase the normalcy of talking about grief and loss to the point where it's easier for us to say, hey, I'm not doing good since the loss of my child or since the loss of my spouse, or identifying grief when we have a breakup or when we have a job loss or when we have a dream that seems like it has been shattered or not going in the direction that we planned it to go. We can grieve in many facets, but the sooner we can identify and grieve, the sooner we might be able to walk through it and heal it. And so we're not just talking about grief resources for the programs, but grief education is something that really helped to shift my perspective on I'm not broken, I'm grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps me to identify.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
I'm not broken.
Mm.
I'm grieving.
I love it.
And I don't need anyone to fix me or make me feel like I need to be different for them to be comfortable.
Yes. Ugh.
And I don't need to dishonor myself to honor somebody else. But I'm not broken. I'm just grieving. And the sooner we can embrace that it's okay to grieve and to give ourselves permission to grieve, we can forge a healing pathways that can not just impact a person, but a family, a tribe, a community, and even systems change. So this is culturally responsive mental health support for bereaved Black and brown moms in Denver, and soon to come, fathers, siblings, children, and all the things related to the family. Get support. Get support. Now, I know we shared our personal journey, and that may or not be like, oh, I don't know about that. Depending on where you are in your journey, don't let that deter you from reaching out and getting some support, because grief is an individualized journey. I have my journey, Randy has hers, Shawnee has hers, Minister Diane has hers. Find your purpose in it. Find your why. Find yourself. Because when I lost Adam, this is one thing I came to realize. I didn't give birth to that baby that I lost. That baby gave birth to me.
Woo, you could say that again.
He gave birth to me. I was so hurting before I ever experienced losing him. I never knew the hurt I carried through most of my life until I touched that grief. And it just blew the top off of it. So I'm not broken. I'm just grieving.
So powerful.
And sometimes we feel broken because we don't know we're grieving. And somebody has to come along and say, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be fixed. You're wonderfully and fearfully made. You're perfectly made.
And that's that's what our cohorts do. Those are group sessions. It's to show you what grief looks like, because we have so many mothers that come in that feel like, am I crazy? Should I be feeling this way? Feeling broken, and then where they're coaching them through it, and it's like, no, that's normal. That's called grief. And they feel so much more peace and empowered just by hearing they're not crazy for feeling what they're feeling, or because they're numb, or they have crazy thoughts, or whatever the case may be. And so that's what the groups are for, to coach us through what grief even looks like. Because I think sometimes, like you said, even experiencing grief, you may not realize what you're experiencing. And so, and that's why, again, to what you said, find your why and your how. And I think that's why we offer the various components, because you may not be ready to sit down with a group of women. You may not even be ready to sit down with a therapist, but maybe, just maybe, you want to go and create some art to just kind of release some of those feelings. So you might do an AP connection 1 month, and then you warm up and say, okay, maybe some individual therapy might work, or maybe this group session might work, but I'm going to sit down and I'm not going to say anything because I'm not ready to open up. So I'm going to just sit back and I'm going to listen to all the other women share. And that in itself, just listening to other women, is so healing. and so therapeutic, because we've had moms that were not ready to open up, were not ready to share about their journey, but just sitting there listening to other mothers share theirs gave them healing in the process.
True.
So,
True. It put words to it.
mhm,
I didn't have the words, but they gave me the words.
exactly.
So, end of year giving push. We are asking you, you can see the ticker running across the bottom of the screen, or you can go to our website at adamspurpose.org. We are trying to reach our end of year goal. We were looking to raise 5,000 for the end of the year. We are at I think about 3,000. So we're needing to push to get 2,000 more to help launch another support group in 2024 that will be catered towards couples. We're looking to launch a space where we can bring couples together and address the component of how do you walk through this thing as a couple, but yet an individual, because men grieve differently. And my husband has his own grief journey, and he is super excited to be able to embrace the men. And so those are some of the things we're looking to do, among other things. We are a small nonprofit, not fully funded, not fully staffed, but with a great big call and mission to touch the lives of people who we are declaring they are not broken, they are grieving, and they need our support. They need our help. Shawnee shared her testimony, Brandy shared hers, and those are just tips of their testimonies on how a little loving goes a long way and can change your life. Just to be met with compassion, with kindness, with care, with sensitivity and tenderness. So please, please, please go to our website, adamspurpose.org, sign up on our newsletter to find out more information. And let me just say this, you might not think it's relevant now, but it may be relevant to share with someone that you love, someone that you know, and just to share this resource with those in the community around you. So we appreciate you. We are so grateful. We are thankful to have been able to take those concepts and ideas in our hearts, put them on paper, and now they're manifesting. So I'm really proud of us being able to launch our programming.
Yeah.
And I'm more proud that we're touching lives.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the vision, Shay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the vision, because it's happening, it's unfolding, it's becoming, and people are thoroughly receiving what they need from this program and this organization. So thank you for the discipline to see the vision and to push it out.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. You guys have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.